Greetings. Today we're going to discuss Black Republican and the intellectual ideas of Lemuel and Haynes. Reflecting the state of slavery in the early republic, Haynes' abolitionist thought was rooted in the idea that slavery is incompatible with both the New Testament and the New Republic. The freedom denied to enslaved people, according to Haynes, continues to taint the way the New Republic viewed and interacted with Americans of African descent. The continuation of slavery in the New Republic was a lost opportunity in American history. Instead of leaving behind the mistakes of the British Empire in order to form a more perfect union in which all men are created equal under the law, the new nation chooses to protect the economic interests of the planting class. This planting class eventually ends up ruling the new nation. And as Eric Forner argues, the Constitution was a step backwards for Americans of African descent. Instead of protecting the rights of Americans of African descent, it worked to strip Americans such as Haynes of their rights. By adding the Three-Fifths Compromise to the Constitution, this made Americans of African descent submissive to the economic wills of the ruling elite. The United States worked to protect the racial caste of the southern plantations instead of the rights of Americans of African descent. From this point forward, Americans of African descent will be submissive to the economic needs of the ruling elites. As a result, the Constitution didn't work to enhance the rights of Americans of African descent. It worked to put them in a position in which they could be useful to the economy. As a result, Americans such as Haynes are forced to live in a world in which the old traditions are alive. Or as Haynes believed, the slavery of West Africa is rooted in the Old Testament and the Quran. Much as the New Testament was supposed to renew the Old Testament, so was new American society supposed to renew the old ways of empires and the inequality and the lack of freedom provided by the kings and empires of old. Instead, slavery is allowed to exist within the new American Republic because of the economic value it provides the few. Although Haynes points out the continuation of slavery is a violation of the New Testament and liberty promised by the Declaration of Independence, the economic maturing of the United States, this mercantile system, as Sven Becker argues, it was impossible without the help of the labor and enslaved people. Dependence upon slavery created a system in which the well-being of the people are subject to the economic needs of the few. Slavery and economic inequality are the original sins of the United States. Its sin is not accepting all under the universal fraternity of Christianity and the liberal idea of freedom being the birthright of all, causes the oppressed people of the world to look for another example of freedom. The mantle of freedom, the mantle of freeing the enslaved people and the oppressed of the world passes on to Saint-Domingue and the Haitian Revolution, as Matthew Calvin points out. The Haitian Revolution inspired American abolitionists such as John Brown to use violence in order to build a freer society because of the failures of the Constitution to free the people of the continent. The United States' punishment for ignoring the rights of Americans was a civil war which tore the nation in half in order to attempt to properly elevate Americans of African descent to their position as equals and those that could take in the fruits of the Constitution that all men are created equal. At this point, the root of slavery has taken hold, and so although the United States fought the Civil War, which was a destructive war, and tore the nation in half, the root of slavery had taken hold, and it was not easily broken, resulting in an additional 150 years of racial discrimination in the country. As Haynes points out, the original sin of the United States is the exceptions of slavery and accepting the old ways to corrupt the new ways. Much as the New Testament was supposed to renew the Old Testament, the new United States was supposed to renew the world and provide freedom and equality to all men under the law. Instead, the United States continues to accept slavery as a viable economic system, and the results are the United States pays the price for it by making racial discrimination part of its system and part of its DNA. Even to this day, the failure to accept Americans of African descent as equals under the law is a price in which the United States has to pay.